he said, "You're going to help me with this. You're not going to tell anyone, or I will kill you."
Explain what made you decide to participate in the murder of your friend.
It was out of fear for my own safety.
July 25th, 2022. A rural road in Colorado. Matthew McGlaughlin, a military veteran struggling with addiction but trying to get his life together, walks up a dirt road carrying groceries. He's accompanied by someone he trusted, David DeGroat, who he considered like a little brother. Hidden in the bushes with an AR-15 is another man Matthew trusted, Mark Joyner. What happens in the next few seconds will end Matthew's life and lead to one of the most disturbing confessions in recent criminal history. This is the story of a planned execution, a horrific dismemberment that lasted weeks, and the moment when David DeGroat finally told the truth about what happened to his friend.
We're here in reference to what started off as a missing person and is now being rolled a homicide of Matthew McGlaughlin. I'm Deputy Don Byers. This is my partner, Deputy McCurdy. Just trying to get the full story from the beginning to the end. I need every possible detail that you have in reference to the situation.
So I would say it was, for what Joyner was thinking, it was pre-plotted beforehand. Because I would tell him about Matt still had a drug habit and he was still talking shit and making rumors. Everything just kind of pissed off Joyner, so several occasions. Kind of told him like, hey, no, don't kill him. Just, kick him off the property or something. Or like give him a stern talking to again. To the point where it eventually came down to the point where he says that he was gonna go with the plan for Matt to get killed. So when Matthew was over in Colorado, dealing with the VA, getting all that stuff done for himself, went to go grocery store, pick up groceries. He got dropped off at Cassandra and Jason's house. I went to go walk with him as we walked up the road at the cart carrying the groceries of everything. As we got to an intersection, a shot rang out. Matt got shot in his right lung from Joyner's rifle, specifically his AR-15. Matt, not knowing what's happening, he did say, "I got shot," and he starts to freak out. Then Joyner comes from around the corner and with my Beretta, he sticks it to his face and shoots him in the jaw, which makes his eyes swell up. And he starts to choke at his blood as he hits the floor. And then he hovers over him with an execution shot and gets him right on the temple. He's waiting in the bushes for him.
On your timeline, you have rough dates or that sort of stuff?
It's rough dates, but I would say July 25th is the execution date.
Okay.
Everything
Cool, bro.
else is more just a murmur of a pre-plot that he made.
So my one question for you is I want you to explain to me the plan that you're talking about.
A plan to kill Matt that Joyner made.
Okay.
So his idea was initially he was going to come up the road that we were going to have, and he was going to try to snipe him with his 308 from a distance. And then his plan changed when Matt said he was getting dropped off over by the other road. So then Joyner's idea was he was going to take my Beretta so he can have a sidearm. And then he grabbed his AR and then waited in the bushes for us to come up, and he told me to stick to one side of the road and to be very loud when I'm near the area. So when he sees Matt come up on the side, despite how dark it is, he doesn't need to worry about who it is.
And so, more specifically on this plan, when it was discussed previously, how was it discussed?
It was discussed in person because he showed up A little bit beforehand, when Matt wasn't there, he just tried to talk about it because he figured phones would be tapped and shit like that, no matter what.
Was it earlier that day?
He did show up earlier that day for when that did happen. He had his van parked all the way at the beginning of the road where you saw me and Joyner come up. He had his van parked all the way down there. He had me walk him up. He tried to plan it about what was going to go down, saw that his plan was going to work, and then that was the execution he made. He told me preemptively, he said, "You're going to help me with this, you're not going to tell anyone, or I will kill you," because then I would be knowing too much.
You mentioned that you had convinced him not to kill him.
I tried to beforehand several times.
And it was that same day?
No, that was a few days beforehand when like he brought like Jerome over and I told him what the situation and he's just like, "I'm gonna kill him," and I was just like, "Calm down, don't kill him," and they just started ranting off.
What DeGroat is describing isn't a spontaneous act of violence. This was a carefully planned execution. Mark Joyner had been thinking about killing Matthew for weeks, possibly longer. He changed his plan based on where Matthew would be dropped off. He positioned himself strategically in the bushes. He took DeGroat's handgun as a backup weapon, and he gave DeGroat specific instructions. Walk on one side of the road. Be loud so Joyner could identify his target in the dark. This level of premeditation is what separates murder from manslaughter. But DeGroat's role in all of this raises a critical question that will determine his fate in court. Was he a terrified victim, forced to participate under threat of death? Or was he a willing accomplice who's now trying to minimize his own guilt? The detectives are about to probe deeper into that question, and DeGroat's answers will be crucial.
Explain what made you decide to participate in the murder of your friend.
It was out of fear for my own safety because he also dropped me off at my house for Christmas before, so he knows where my family lives. And I know he would be the type of man to do it as well.
Describe that.
I know he's the kind of man, if he's angry enough, he'll just shoot someone just for talking shit. So I became a loose end somehow, and he found out that I was talking about it. I'm pretty sure I would get an end cap in it as well. Have the same fate as Matt.
What makes you so fearful of Joyner?
It's because I know he's capable of doing it. Just because he says it, it also means he can do it. Because he says beforehand that he has killed someone around the property before with his dad. Which is believable, at least.
What role did you play in the body?
He had me just hold a bag open so he could dump all the parts in, so he could make sure my DNA was on it as well.
Okay, so I'm sorry, say that again?
He wanted me to hold the bags so he could dump the body parts in so he could make sure my DNA was on the bags as well.
And how do you know that?
Because it's what he told me. He said, "You're going to join me or you're going to get the same thing as he did. But you're going to help me with this body if you like it or not."
We know the two weapons that were used in the murder. What was used in the decapitation of your friend?
The decapitation the weapon used was a sledgehammer with an axe head on it that he bought from the store specifically for that purpose.
What was it bought from?
I'm guessing Harbor Freight or something like that.
So, before the execution of that plan, when you walked down to Matthew, Why were you walking down to Matthew?
To help him with the groceries. He wanted to see the puppy. Groceries usually need at least 2 people because the way he piled up on top, it usually tips over, so someone needs to hold on to it.
And at that point in time, did you know that your friend was going to be shot?
Yes.
How did you know?
Because when I was walking down, I know Joyner's still behind me with his rifle. I still know the plan was that he had set in motion was still going to happen. But I didn't know what to think at the moment at the time. Kind of went numb for most of it.
You mentioned that Joyner had told you to be loud.
Yes.
Were you loud?
I was loud when I was coming up to the area that he was.
And what were you doing to be loud?
Just talking to Matthew a little extra louder. Just kind of raising my voice or trying to make jokes.
When Matthew was initially shot, how far away was Joyner?
About from the door to, I'd say like the table in that corner. About that distance of him hiding in the bushes as it was dark outside. Almost no sunlight.
It's about 12 yards.
About so.
Okay.
Think about what DeGroat just admitted. He knew Matthew was going to be killed. He walked down to meet Matthew anyway. He talked to Matthew, probably acted normal, maybe even joked with him, all while knowing that in the bushes just yards away, Mark Joyner was aiming an AR-15 at his friend. And DeGroat was deliberately being loud, raising his voice, making jokes to help Joyner identify which person was Matthew in the darkness, 12 yards. That's 36 feet, close enough that there was no chance of missing. The first shot from the AR-15 hit Matthew in the right lung. He said, "I got shot," and started to panic. Then, Joyner emerged from the bushes with DeGroat's own Beretta handgun and shot Matthew in the jaw at point-blank range, causing massive trauma. And then, as Matthew lay on the ground, choking on his own blood, unable to defend himself, Joyner stood over him and fired a final execution shot into his temple. This wasn't a fight. This wasn't self-defense. This was a planned ambush and execution of an unarmed man carrying groceries.
So Joyner had a bucket down there because we brought me and Joyner after he killed him. He brought all the groceries and stuff back into the house, emptied everything into the house, grabbed the cart with a bucket and the hacksaw, and then he went back down with me to have watch. And then he grabbed his phones, his tablets, a small bag, his wallet, different personal things of personal identification to burn. Everything was getting put in that bucket. Then he had Joyner had me help him drag Matt behind the tree about like 200 feet past the road. And he went to go try to cut his leg with a hacksaw, but it didn't work. So he went to go put that in the bucket as well. And by the time me and Joyner got back to the house, he made a fire to burn all of his belongings.
Where's the hacksaw?
We have it.
It was melted in the bottom of the...
Oh, so you guys had done...
I went to go show them where it was.
Okay.
Did you start dismembering Matt before or after I called you guys to ask where he was at?
It was beforehand, before the first initial call for the missing persons report. He already had no head and hands by that point. And then he had me hold the bag open, Joyner had me hold the bag open to put Matt's head and hands in the bag, and then put the bag in the bucket, and then he said he tossed it on the side of the ditch.
What day did you guys start dismembering that body?
I don't remember the day, because it was almost a week before, almost a week after he died was when he started to dismember him, and it's when he smelled bad and started bloating.
Okay, how long did it take you guys to dismember the body?
He threw away the last piece around last week, which was the torso and a leg bone. But there was no meat on it, it was just nothing but ribs and the spine, hips.
The cover-up began immediately and was just as methodical as the murder itself. Joyner and DeGroat brought the groceries back to the house, the groceries that Matthew had just bought, that he was excited to bring home. They emptied them into the house as if nothing had happened. Then they went back with a bucket and a hacksaw. They collected every piece of Matthew's identification, phones, tablets, wallet, anything that could identify him, and burned it all. They dragged his body 200 feet into the woods and tried to dismember it with a hacksaw, but the blade broke on the bone, so they left Matthew's body there in the woods and went home. But this was just the beginning. Over the next several weeks, Mark Joyner would return again and again to systematically dismember Matthew's body. And according to DeGroat, he was forced to help every step of the way, under constant threat of death.
So what we're probably going to have you do for the statement is what I want you to do, man, is I want you to read it for the record out loud. And then we'll have you explain the timeline again to us, okay?
Yep.
He initialed, he signed, he dated. So just read the statement out loud for us, okay? From the beginning all the way to the end.
About 2 weeks before Joyner shot Matt on several occasions, after I would talk about Matthew, I would tell Joyner of Matthew's drug and alcohol problem, of excessive use, and how he would constantly complain and start rumors or ill-speaking of Joyner. I talked him out of him trying to kill him a few times. After I would tell him these things he wouldn't listen. About 3 days beforehand of when Matt's incident happened, it was planned that he was going to kill him. Joyner was going to kill Matthew. He told me if I was to tell anybody and did not help him, he would kill me. For the fear of my own safety, I went with that. For the night of Matt's death, Matt was out for the day dealing with the VA and getting groceries. I walked down over to Matthew and where Cassandra was at to help him with the groceries to bring him back up. This next section. Me and Matthew walked up with our stuff. As we got closer to the intersection, a shot rang out. Joyner shot Matt in his right lung with his AR-15, which made Matt panic. As he was in panic, Joyner comes up close and shoots one round from my handgun, my Beretta 92FS, into his jaw, making his eyes swell up. As Matt laid on the floor choking on his own blood, Joyner walks right above him and puts one more round into Matt's skull. As soon as that happens, he aims it at me and then lowers it. Me and Joyner, after the fact, take everything that Matt brought in his cart back to the house. We unload everything, and then me and Joyner both walk back down to where Matt was. Grabbed all of his personal effects, cards, devices, anything with information, and put them in an empty bucket to burn later. We set it aside, and he tells me to help him move the body. So I grabbed the legs, and he grabbed the upper half, and we drag him and lay him under a pine tree. As then he grabs a hacksaw and tries to cut his legs, but the bone breaks the blade. So we left him under the tree and walked back to the house to burn all of Matt's stuff that we had in the bucket. He told me to put his phones, tablets, wallets, other items with personal information inside the bucket.
DeGroat's written statement provides even more details, and one detail stands out. As soon as that happens, he aims it at me and then lowers it. After executing Matthew with 3 shots, Joyner pointed the gun at DeGroat. It was a message, "You're next if you don't cooperate." This detail is crucial to DeGroat's defense. If true, it supports his claim that he was operating under duress, that he genuinely feared for his life. But prosecutors will argue that DeGroat had multiple opportunities to escape or call for help in the weeks that followed, and he never did. They'll point to the fact that he admits telling Joyner about Matthew's problems, possibly fueling Joyner's anger. They'll note that he walked Matthew into an ambush while being deliberately loud to help identify the target. The line between victim and accomplice is blurry, and a jury will have to decide which side of that line DeGroat falls on.
Joyner comes back a few days later, promising the same threat and outcome he told me before. He had brought a sledgehammer axe, which he used to cut off the hands and the head of Matthew. And he tells me to open the bag to put them in. Joyner tells me to open the bag to have him put the Matthew's hands and head inside the bag. And afterwards he tells me that he threw it in a drainage ditch somewhere and in the middle of the road. As more and more time passes, he would come by a few days, check on the body. And then he did only the same process as before, with cutting off his limbs within the spans of different days. Cutting off his limbs, no bucket, only just black bags. As of last week, we checked on it, and it was missing a shoulder blade and an arm, and it was moved by wild dogs. And yet again, as of last week, it only became a rib cage and a leg joint, and Joyner has me help him bag it. He's still threatening to kill me. Then he dumps the body somewhere on the road as his usual spot for then. As time comes on, then the sheriff's office calls me for me and Joyner to come in for a statement. And he was coaching on me what to say, and I followed out of fear for my life and complied to him again.
Describe what you mean by coaching.
He was coercing me on what to say, what not to say, like in terms like, we don't know Yo-Yo, I left at this time, he left at this time, he had these things.
So basically trying to make your guys' stories identical.
Yes.
Why didn't he come back to pick you up yesterday?
He was at work.
Okay.
And I was walking to the house, which is only 2 miles that way.
Okay. Explain that timeline to us.
So for the timeline, Matt's official date of death was July 25th. That's when Joyner shot him. A rough estimate of almost a week passes. And Joyner chops off the hands and the head, and he dumps off everything else. A few more days pass. Joyner cuts down the limbs as the body is more bloated. And then, as of last week, Joyner bags the rest of the torso and tosses it.
I don't have anything else that I want to ask you or need to ask you at this point in time.
The dismemberment took weeks. Joyner would return to the body every few days as it decomposed and became easier to cut apart. First, the head and hands, thrown in a drainage ditch to prevent identification. Then the limbs, cut off and disposed of in black bags, The torso was left until last. By that point, it was mostly just bones, the flesh having decomposed or been scattered by wild animals. And throughout all of this, DeGroat claims he was forced to participate, holding bags open, helping to move body parts, all under threat of death. When the sheriff's office finally called them in for questioning about Matthew's disappearance, Joyner coached DeGroat on exactly what to say. They rehearsed their stories to make them identical, but experienced detectives can spot coached statements, and they didn't believe either of them.
If you lie at all, man, we're about to find out.
I'm aware.
Or, I mean, to be real honest with you, we didn't believe you guys at all. From the get-go. I didn't buy anything you guys were telling me.
I'm aware.
And your guys' story was... It's wild because we could tell where you guys had cooperated and tried to make everything identical. And then there was times where it was like, you guys were on opposite sides of the earth. You know, which, when people are lying, you know, they tend to do a lot of weird yeah, I appreciate you being honest, man.
It feels nice to actually tell someone about
I'm sure, man. That's a heavy fucking burden to carry, bro. It's your friend. He was murdered, cold blood,
it. You was.
and chopped up. By what it sounds like, by people that he really trusted. According to his mom, he talked very highly about you guys.
He did. At least me, because he told his mom he looked at me as a little brother as well, and he wanted to protect you.
It's true. It's an accurate statement.
That final exchange reveals the ultimate tragedy of this case. Matthew McGlaughlin looked at David DeGroat as a little brother. He wanted to protect him. He trusted him completely. And DeGroat, whether through fear or willing participation, helped lead Matthew to his death, and then assisted in disposing of his dismembered body. David DeGroat and Mark Joyner were both charged with first-degree murder. DeGroat faces additional charges of conspiracy to commit murder and tampering with evidence. The legal question that will be decided in court is whether DeGroat was a victim of coercion or a willing participant. But regardless of the legal outcome, the human tragedy is clear. Matthew McGlaughlin, a military veteran trying to rebuild his life, was betrayed and murdered by the people he trusted most.